Hey, welcome back to Fully Live Athlete Pastor Channel. This is Justin speaking. Hey, we're in the vacation mode here. This is day 104 of the Online Bible Reading Club. We're still going to get it done. We're looking at 1 Samuel chapter 25 and 26 today, and we're looking at Luke chapter 12, 31 and following, the end of Luke 12. So quickly, let's go through this to give you a little review or a preview depending on how you're doing this. The comments or description below actually has the plan for reading through the Bible every day, and I want you to take advantage of that. But so you can do it two ways. You can read the text first, which is going to be 1 Samuel again 25 and 26 and the end of chapter 12 of Luke, or you can read it after you watch the video. And so it's going to be a preview or a review to help you get acquainted with this text so we can understand the Bible better. Well, as we get into it, let's consider where we are. In the previous chapter, David has spared the life of his enemy Saul, who seeks to murder him. Saul is the first king of Israel. The nations had kings, and Israel wanted a king, and so Samuel gave them a king who met the qualifications externally. But this king was quickly rejected by God, as he had no heart for God. And then God says he's going to put a king on there that's going to have a heart after him, a man after his own heart. And that's going to be David. And so David and Saul have been in this conflict since then. As Saul knows he's rejected, the word of the Lord is departed from him. Well, David is now on the run because Saul seeks to murder him. 2 times now David has spared the life of Saul, and we're going to see that again in 26. He's going to do that again by not spearing him to death, as the Lord has put all of his men of Saul in a deep sleep. And so David waltzes right into Saul's camp and has every opportunity to murder him and have his servant there murder him. But David says, no, I will not strike the Lord's anointed. Now, as you look at this text, what precedes this sets us up for this, because David encounters a fool, Nabal. And Nabal, you can read the story there, he absolutely insults David and gets him, goads him towards bringing murderous intent toward him. David has 400 men strapped with swords ready to destroy this man Nabal. Now, Nabal, it's a very fascinating story. His name literally means fool in Hebrew. Well, Nabal is drunk, has no idea what's going on. Well, his wife is wise, Abigail, and she knows the covenant promises of David, and she goes to David and intercedes for her husband to spare him. And what she does spares David from doing something that's going to bring guilt on him and besmirch his kingdom. And she convinces David that Yahweh will take care of his enemies. He already knew that, but he's somehow forgotten it. And that's all of us. We all walk by faith, but we're constantly forgetting that God's in control, he's governing all things, and he's given us promises that are good. And we walk by faith in those promises, not by sight, but we need to be reminded. And so sometimes God sends us Abigails to keep us on track. And that's what I want to highlight. One verse in chapter 25, verse 39, as David says, after he hears that Nabal has died, he said, "Blessed be the Lord, who has avenged the insult I received at the hand of Nabal, and has kept back his servant from wrongdoing. The Lord has returned the evil of Nabal on his head." And then David took Abigail as his wife, the widow Abigail as his own wife. Now, that is, friends, what we have every day, is these mercies to us that we have even no idea sometimes about, where God keeps us from wrongdoing. He keeps us from shipwrecking our faith through wrongdoing and through unbelief, because God's sovereignly working every single action. The Westminster Confession, or Westminster Shorter Catechism question on providence, it says, God's works of providence are his most holy, wise, powerful, preserving and governing all his creatures and all of their actions. This is a clear example where David recognized that and worshiped God because of it. Now, we don't always worship it. We don't always recognize all these clearly ways that God has governed and preserved us in his most holy, wise, and powerful way. But when we do, that is fuel for our worship. And I want us to remember that. Now, as we go over to the Luke passage, consider this, that I want to highlight one thing about this, that God says in this about Jesus. He says, "Do not think that I've come to bring peace on earth. No, I tell you, division," in verse 51. From now on there will be one house, there will be divided, 5 there, and 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. You see that in Luke 12. What's up with that? Peace? No. I came to bring division, Jesus says. Well, here's the deal. The only peace that exists normally in this world is a peace formed in rebellion against God. A common purpose of rebelling against God. Nabal is the picture of it, and David actually looks like Nabal in the 1 Samuel 25 passage, and then he doesn't in 26 because God's taught him again his providence and his faithfulness. His word is good. The mercies to us is in bringing division against the rebellion that all mankind participates in Adam. In Adam's rebellion, we all are rebels. And so God divides us from that destructive path ahead where there will be judgment, and brings us into a covenant of grace where there will be salvation. And we rest in God's grace entirely. You see, David was a picture of a king to come. But he was a fallen king, a sinful king in need of a better king, a savior, and that's Jesus. Jesus is going to bring us out of the rebellion and the war that we've engaged in against his kingdom, and he's going to divide us. And not everyone that we're going to be close to is going to go with us. But the plea is, while there's still day, while there's still the harvest is coming, the season's coming. It says to think in light of your understanding in 12 of nature. Well, we see that the times are coming. The end is coming, and so we need to be prepared, ready for that time. And while there's still day, there's still time for each of us to turn from our ways of evil and be at peace with God again through the work of the faithful King Jesus. And that's where we end today. We're walking by faith, not in our own good works, but in the works of the true King, the true David, the better one, who didn't need Abigails to come to him, who didn't need sparing from his unrighteous intent, because his singular motivation was for the joy set for him. He came to bear the cross, and to bear our shame, to bear our sin, and to triumph over it, to nail it all of our wrongdoing, to the cross, and set us free from it, and set us free from sin and guilt forevermore through his blood. This is the King. All right, with that said, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Online Bible Reading Club. I hope you enjoyed the view too behind you there. That is amazing. We're in the mountains of North Carolina, and hope to catch up with you very soon again for part number 105. Like the video, comment, subscribe. We'll see you soon. God bless.